Hello everyone, welcome to CivilPrep. I am Krishna Gupta and this is a session on Geography Optional Foundation 2026, that is a free initiative by CivilPrep. In this lecture, we will be understanding radicalism, Marxism and functionalism in human geography. If you want to understand this part in a very detailed format, you need to understand the previous lectures we have seen here who are looking at this lecture for the first time. So here we will see that we have already covered a lot of things, which is very important from the perception of examination. Okay, examination, answer writing, and making our preparation at a very good pace and good understanding. Now, just give me a minute, guys. Okay, so here we will see that we have certain, I have prepared certain PDF here. How to use this PDF, I'll just give you a demo. Okay, you have to go to the web. You have to go to the web here. Under this web part, you will be logging into civilprep.in. Okay, you have to create your account if you don't have. Okay, here as my account is already created, it will take you to the main page here. Okay, so under the home page, what you can do, you have to go to the courses. Okay, under courses, that is provided here. Okay, this is my backend part here. Okay, so I am coming to the front end here. So the page which is present here, it will look like this. Okay, if you have any query here, you can type your query. Your query will be brought to me directly. In case of any doubts, any queries, any information if you want, so this can be taken up from this part here. Okay, now for this particular PDF which we are talking about, we need to go to the courses. Okay, you have to log in. Your name will be provided here and the logout section will be provided here. Now, when you will come to this course, you have enrolled to this course, you will come to the down part, you have to come to page 2. Under page 2, you have Geography Optional Foundation Freemium course. You have to click on this Freemium course. Under this, you will get certain section and curriculum. So under the curriculum part, as you scroll down here, under this curriculum, there are all the lectures are provided here of the various topics and on the format in which it will be uploaded. So here you can see there is radical Marxist and functionalist approach in human geography. You have to click on it. When you will click on it, you will go to the source here for the PDF, which we are using right now for our lecture. So you can see this is the same PDF which we are using. So this is for the radicalism and Marxism part. And the second PDF here we have, that is explaining what is the modernist, what is the postmodernist, and what is the functionalist geography. So this is an add-on taken by me, so that the aspirants who are preparing for geography optional, because at a lot of institutes I have seen that the functionalist geography and the postmodern geography is not very well explained. So I have merged this part here and I have provided a separate PDF so that there is no confusion for the aspirant that how to approach for the postmodern and the functionalist geography here. Okay, now coming back to our lecture part here. In today's part, we will be covering the radicalism in geography and Marxism. Okay, one more thing I would like to tell you. There will be an answer writing session for all these 135 lectures. Okay, if you're going for the answer writing and if you also want to go for the test, so you can go to the courses again. Yeah, you can go to the courses again. Here you will see that we have also developed one course which is very much which will be very much beneficial for the aspirants. That is geography optional premium course. Sorry, the geography optional premium course. You can see here the schedule also. There is 135-day schedule which is provided here. You can go through it. So this is geography optional foundation premium course. You can get it in the course section. When you will click over it, you will get a particular link. Here, the same type of format is given, but one thing is present here, that is, you will also get, when I go to the curriculum part, you will get assignments here. You will get daily assignments, and these daily assignments, it is developed as per the questions which are provided on the daily basis. So automatically you can come to here, for example, here it is logged because here I have not enrolled to this particular course. Here you will get 135 questions which will be live evaluated. You will also get 22 test series. Okay, there will be 5 set of questions for 1 to 20 tests. Those are the sectional tests, and 21 and 22 tests, they will be full length tests on the basis of paper 1 and on the basis of paper 2. So in this way, you will be able to cover the complete geography optional preparation within the stipulated time. And what I am doing here, I am not charging extra for teaching here. I am not charging extra for the teaching part. I am just charging here for the evaluation and the test series part here. So you can see the course price, it is not very high, and it is covering 135 classes, 135 questions, which will be assigned on daily basis. There will be 20 tests, which will be sectional tests for each and every topic separately, okay, which are very highly aligned to the UPSC examination. And there will be full length test, that is full length test 1 and full length test 2. So if you subscribe to this particular course, your geography optional preparation, it will be taken to next level. See, I can understand that a lot of students want just lectures, so they can go for the free lectures. A lot of aspirant, they also want help because they are preparing to get selected. They are not preparing just to appear for the UPSC examination. So I will address this part here. If you are preparing for success, if you are preparing for selection, you must enroll to this course, that is the premium course, where you will be getting test series. And the total number of tests, if we will see here, that the total number of questions which will be covered here, that will be around 300 plus questions. Okay, so this a number of questions, they are enough for an aspirant to cover complete syllabus, to be prepared. And the main thing will be here that you will be mains ready before prelims. So this is the main important approach that I have built for the aspirants here. Okay, so yes, definitely you should enroll for this course. Any kind of query, you can come to this part here. You can write your query, and the same query will be taken up by my team members, and they will be forwarding that query to me directly. If you want to discuss something personally with me, so here you have a Telegram link also. You can come to this part. Okay, you can come to the lower part. You can see here a Telegram button is shown. If you will click on this Telegram button, you will be directly coming to my channel, and here you can interact directly with me. If you want to speak to me on, WhatsApp, so here also we have a WhatsApp part. You will be taken to the WhatsApp group where you can chat with me directly here. So here we see that we have developed certain system here. which is very much simple for you and for me to interact with each other. So this is a prelims prep, freemium, and premium course here. Now, let's continue back to the lecture. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, so here we have radicalism in human geography. Now, radicalism in human geography, this is one of the most important perspective which have been developed in the geographical studies. What we have seen, I will just take a background. We will take a look of this part here, that what resulted into the development of geographical thought. So we have seen that the quantitative revolution, one of the major paradigm which existed since 1950s to 1970s. Yes, Urmila, good morning. How are you? Okay, other aspirants who are also watching this lecture, they can say hi so that I may know who are watching the lectures, and we can interact with the sessions within the sessions, and your learning process will become more easier and smooth. Okay, so this is quantitative revolution. Here we have seen that we have a particular aspect where it was more positivistic. Okay, great. Now, I want to discuss with you about the daily answer writing. So after this lecture is over, I will be connecting another session with you, and under that we'll be discussing the questions what you have written. So it will be better for me and for you also to interact in a live format. And in that format, we will be also covering the lectures also. Not lecture, but the answers that you have written here. Okay. Now, coming back to this part here. Here we have aerial differentiation. Here we have quantitative revolution. Here we have radicalism, behavioralism, and we have humanist approach. Under this, we have already covered the behavioral approach, and we have in the last lecture we have covered the humanist approach. This is a radical approach which we need to understand. Now, under this radical approach only, when we will move further, it is getting divided into two streams. One is the Marxist approach and another is the welfare approach. Remember one thing, the Marxist approach and welfare approach, they are coming out of the radical approach. They are having certain stances which are similar and certain stances which are different from the radical approach here. Okay. Then after this, how the functionalist geography. Functionalist geography came into picture. What is it? How it works? We are also discussing about it in detail. So, guys, my request to all of you is, you are getting these lectures. Okay, that is a very good part. That is my decision. Now, but I want you to also share this lecture, subscribe this YouTube channel, and do comment. Okay, why are you not commenting on this part? Like, how did you like the lecture? What were the important things that you feel good? Okay, so do comment on the comment box after this lecture is uploaded, so that many viewers will see this and they will be also motivated to join this free initiative. Okay, now this is functionalist approach here. Now, under the radical part, we will see that there were certain issues in geography which were related to the issues of inequality. Okay. Certain geographical schools over the world, they have seen that there are certain inequalities which are prevailing over the space. When we are talking about the inequality which are prevailing over the space, we need to see certain examples that how actually it was seen. So it was seen in the one of the cities of United States of America, where there was a central business district and there were patches of settlements of the white people. And under the settlement, here we will see that these were the regions where only the white people used to live. And there were certain patches of lands, certain patches of areas where the black people used to live there. And apart from this, the white, they have created certain gentrification, that is the gated communities, and the ghettos were formed here, which was signifying that there is presence of inequality which was present over the space, and it was seen in a single city. If we specify uh, this particular issue further, we will see here that in the complete American aspect here, in the complete America region here the prevalence of the white and black, it was seen that more black people used to live in the southern part of America and more white people used to live in the northern part of America. If you will go to America in the contemporary time also, the issues with respect to the racism, which was previously prevalent in the form of the black and white, now also include the aspect of Indians, then Chinese, and other aspect here, which are coming from the different regions of the world here. Now, what it is seen here that in the contemporary time also, there are certain colonies where only the Indians live. There are certain colonies where the whites live. There are certain colonies where the blacks live. So these are certain things which is seen in the form of the inequality which is prevalent in space. Not only the inequality in space, but also inequality in terms of poverty was also seen. Along with the poverty, we will see that with respect to the food, with respect to the war crisis, and etc., which we have covered as a part of the criticism of the quantitative revolution, and it is also to a certain extent highlighted in the humanist geography and the behavioral geography. So here, what was the main issue that was highlighted by the radicalism? That there is presence of certain structures like if there is a capital or there is a person who has accumulation of capital, so he have built a structure of capitalism. If there is a structure of polity or political structure, so the particular community, they have built a political structure. If we have a society, so there is a buildup of the social structure, and all these structures, we will see that they were controlling the behavior, not only the behavior, but how people will live, what resources people will enjoy, what resources what resources will not be enjoyed by the people. So these things were basically taken up by these structures here. So these structures, they became one of the fundamental issue. They become a fundamental issue for the prevalence of inequality, which was also being seen over the space. Now, in this part, what radicalism says that how we can overcome this issue of the inequality. So radicalism says that we need to overcome this structure, we need to overthrow these structures, and we need to create a community which is based on the communism. That is, all the resources are accessed by everyone, and that should be equally. because these structures are avoiding or they are restricting the access of resources to the various people over the world. So to overcome these issues, we need to destroy the structures which are prevalent in the various regions of the world. And these structures, when these structures will be destroyed, there will be communities will be developed which will be having a control over all the resources, and this resource control will be equally distributed among the people, and they will enjoy all these resources here. So this was something which was taken up as a important part for the context of the radical development. Now let's look at its historical context and its development. So definition of radicalism. Radicalism in geography refers to a group of interconnected approaches that emerged in the late 1960s, challenging to the dominant positivist paradigm, that is the quantitative revolution. Radicalists were geographers dissatisfied with the prevailing approaches and sought alternative radical solutions to the societal problems through the geographical analysis. So here the geographical analysis, that is the inequality prevalent over the space. So that this is the main theme which is taken as a part of the radical geography here. Now, when we look at the historical context, that is the development of the radicalism in geography. So the radicalist movement emerged during a period of unprecedented social and economic crisis. There were a lot of social and economic crises during the 1960s and 1980s. So what were those? Number one, the Cold War militarism. Like Vietnam War created massive human casualties and geopolitical tensions. If you are not aware about the Vietnam was previously a colony of the French. Okay, they were the colony of French. So after the World War II, where the French colonial power it declined, but French declined to uh, come out of this particular Vietnam region, and they were not freeing the Vietnam country. So the people of Vietnam, they went against the French and they won the war. But here we will see that if you will look at the map of Vietnam, here we have two parts of Vietnam. One is the North Vietnam, another is the South Vietnam. The North Vietnam, it was very much associated with China and Russia, where it was majorly associated with the communism or communist government or communist approach. While the South Vietnam, it was very much associated with the democratic system. So this resulted into the another war within the Vietnam, where the communists were able to overpower the democratic, and therefore there was the development of the communist government, which was supported by the Russia and China here. But but we have seen that in the same time period in the World War II, the rise of Hitler as a single person, okay, which was in the under the democratic setup, and Hitler converted this democratic setup into a kind of a dictatorship by making certain changes in the laws of the democratic system. Later on, we have seen that this dictatorship it was converted into fascism, and this fascism it have resulted into the massacre of the millions of peoples in the world. Okay, therefore USA, which was also Democrat, wanted to overcome this issue of the rise of the communist in any region. Therefore, they led into a war, which is also famously known as the Vietnam War. Okay, so this went on around from 1964 to 1967. Okay, so this was the period where the war was going on. So this was one of the issue which was highlighted here by the radicalist here. Then in the other part, there was urban inequality. For example, American example that we have seen here, that there is presence of ghettos, there is presence of we can say the small patches of land where the black are living and the region where the white are living, and they are not interacting with each other. So there was an extreme race and class stratification in American cities, leading to social unrest. So this was another issue which was highlighted here. Then there was economic crisis, the global inflation, stagnant productivity, and looming international debt crisis was also seen. Like the European countries, they were under very high debt because of the two world wars. Okay, now this was an issue with that particular time period. This was a time, that particular time or period issue was this, that this resulted into the lower development of the European countries in those time period. Now, there were certain environmental warnings also. When we talk about the environmental warning, certain ecologists warn of impeding environmental collapse and limits to growth, which was also prevalent during those time period. If we will see the time period of the limits to growth, it is almost around 1972, which was given by the Club of Rome. There was also certain disciplinary crisis, like traditional positivist geography seemed ill-equipped to address this pressing social issues. For example, if I want to look out for why the black people are living in this particular underdeveloped area or shady region, and why the white are living in a better area or a better public infrastructural area, despite black having high money, they cannot move to a region where they can enjoy better public facilities and better living conditions. So this was very highly seen as a kind of a suppression of the certain sections of the society in America. Not only America, but this same issue was also seen in the other countries of the world. Okay. Now, this resulted into the developmental phases, and the key theories got attached with the radicalism. Now, here we have certain stances of radicalism, for example, liberal radicalism. Then we have the Peet's liberal position, that was the early phase. Then we have the Marxist turn here, how the Marxist turn has taken place in this particular radicalism development. So here we see that the characteristics of the liberal radicalism was its initial phase with liberal attitudes towards the change. Like, yes, there are certain issues, and what liberal attitude is, we can use the positivist approach, we can give certain welfare programs, and we can make things correct. But it was seen in the United Kingdom, France, and America also, despite providing these stances of welfareism to these particular regions, the regions were not able to get better. Okay, so this was a kind of a result of welfareism, which was not seen as a part of the conclusion. It was not solving the problem of the society. Therefore, this stance changed quickly. What happened next? Focus on manifestation of social problems in space rather than the root cause. So if I am not able to have employment, if I am not able to earn money, so it is me that I lack skills. It is me that I have not studied properly during my schools and colleges. Is it me that I am not contributing anything to the society? Is this issue, or there is certain other issue, like there is lack of employment, there is lack of higher wages, there is lack of capital distribution to the people, there is lack of resource distribution to the people. So here there were certain perspectives were changed with respect to the problem is with me, or I can say I here, or the problem is with the structure which is present in the which is present over the space. Third thing, the reformist solutions within the existing frameworks. Now, in this part, what it was in that initially it was said that if there is certain issue, if we will try to provide solution to the issue by making certain reforms, we can have a kind of a system where we can achieve equality. So this was seen here. But what it was in that, like, it is very difficult to reform a particular structure. It is very much difficult because a structure is very much stagnant, it is very much fixed. It does not want to change itself from the outer part. It can change itself from within, but not from the outer stances. So this was a reformist approach which was initially taken, later on which came as a part of the radical part, which wanted to overthrow this structure. So this also we need to keep in mind that how was the structures were operating. Then superficial treatment of inequality and poverty issues were also seen here. Now, the key figures and contributors for the liberal radicalism here. Number one, very important person, that is the Richard Morrill. His spatial planning approach was very much, we can say, appreciated for the overcoming of the solution for the problems. He advocated creation of growth centers in the poverty-stricken areas. For example, if this is a area where the black people are living, we can start here the growth centers with respect to the market, with respect to industries, with respect to services, which will help the people who are poverty stricken to come out of the poverty. He believed that employment generation through the spatial development would induce development. Development of employment actually solves 90% of the issues, but yes, the other issues like political, social, then racial, so these issues still persist. So there is a step-by-step solution for these issues also. Then surface level understanding of developmental problem. We need to understand that what is the surface level problem, and we need to also understand that what is the we can say the structural problem in this particular issue. So the approach which was taken here, that was majorly the surface level problem here. Then it failed to address the structural causes of inequality. So until this part, the liberal approach for the radicalism, it did not had the structural integration in the radicalism approach till now. Now, second person we see here, the Journal of the Movement Voice. So this is Antipode. Antipode was name of the journal. It was founded in 1969. It basically became the mouthpiece of the radical geographers. This is a very important journal. Richard Morrill, you need to remember him. Antipode also you need to remember this journal because it provided a platform for debate and alternative perspective. Now understand this part. If you are living in United States of America, so USA it is a democratic country, and under this democratic regime you can share your voices. But there is a catch. There is a catch. What is the catch? You cannot say your voices for the communist. You cannot go for the communist kind of attitude there. You need to have a democratic or liberal attitude. You cannot go for the communist attitude in the United States of American system there. It symbolized the institutionalization of the radical thought within the geography. So this was something which became also important for the understanding of the radical thought in the geographical studies. Now, moving forward, and next part we have the Peet's liberal positivism opposition. Now, Peet is another important person or geographer who is associated with the regional, this radical geography. So Pete focused on poverty as manifestation of inequality. Why there is inequality? Why there is poverty is prevalent over the certain spaces only. For example, if you will see the countries who were the previous colonial, as the colonies of the colonial powers who were under the imperialism, 90% of those countries are still facing inequality and poverty in their structures and in their approach there. So we need to see that how these particular issues were also seen as a part of the structure. Now, next, he emphasized need to highlight the surface problems. He was also going for the surface problem, but not until now was going for the structural problem. Later, he evolved toward the Marxist interpretation. So Pete is one of the person who initially as a part of the radical thought, he went to the another thought, that is the Marxist thought. So the Marxist perspective which came into the geographical studies, that came out as a part of the Pete's work. So Pete is an important geographer who helped in the development of the Marxist thought within the radicalism or out of the radicalism here. Now, the phase two, that is the Marxist turn here, that came in 1972 and prevailed till 1980s. This phase witnessed the crucial transformation from liberal reformism to revolutionary Marxism. So here the stance changed. Can I live in a region where the society is unequal? No, I cannot. So what should be done? There should be overthrow of the government. There should be overthrow of the structures. There should be overthrow of the capitalism. There should be overthrow of the political system. There should be overthrow or revolutionization of the education system. So they went into the revolutionary aspect where the overthrow of the structures and things used to take place here. Here, the full Kalman's critique, okay, that was given in 1972. The argument was liberal approaches were fundamentally inadequate to solve chronic societal problems. His position was he dismissed the Marxist approach as insufficient radical. So this was an important critique which was given by the whole Kalman here. He critiqued the David Harvey also. We'll be studying about David Harvey in this later part here. He called Harvey's call for paradigm modification insufficient. He argued radical systematic replacement was needed and not a reform. Okay, so here what we see that the Harvey's part which was provided that we need a reform here, but it was highlighted by Kelman that we do not need reform, we need a radical approach that has to be the replacement. Okay, so this is needed for us to make the society equal and make the space more equal here. So what impact here it was? It catalyzed Harvey's complete conversion to the Marxist geography. So Harvey, who was also initially a part of the radical system, he also went into become a Marxist geographer in the later times. Now, David Harvey, the theorist of the Marxist geography. If you will learn about David Harvey, if you will read about him in books, there is a lot of things about him to read. Actually, there is a complete book on him, David Harvey, for his for whatever his thoughts with respect to the development of the equal society, and he was able to show that how the inequality was prevailing over the society. So David Harvey emerged as the most influential Marxist geographer, fundamentally transforming the geographical thought here. His key publications, इससे आप लिख लो कम से कम 10-15 बार एंड इसे आप याद कर लो. Second thing, the limits to capital, इसे भी आप लिख के आप याद रख लो. These are the two very important points which have to be always remembered when you are talking about David Harvey and radicalism and the Marxist geography. Number one is the social justice and the city. The central thesis here is the geography cannot remain isolated in ivory towns as purely academic discipline. Geography is not purely academic and it cannot be just remaining in certain places and saying that we should do this, we should do that, until and unless geography or the geographers should come out themselves and they will provide that what we have to do for making changes in the society, for making changes in the we can say the system where the things are not equal. So he have given us a fundamental part of call to action. So his call to action was geographers must become politically aware and actively involved in creating just society. So he was asking geographers to come to the forefront and do something, do something politically, to get involved in the political part and create a just society rather than just highlighting it. मतलब ऐसा है कि मैं कह रहा हूँ कि गवर्नमेंट ने ऐसा करना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट ने बेटर स्कीम्स लाना चाहिए, बेटर गवर्नमेंट ने करप्शन कम करना चाहिए, बट करेंगे कैसे, हाउ वी कैन डू इट. सो आप और मैं, जैसा मैंने अपने टाइम में सोचा कि इफ आई वांट टू मेक दिस चेंजेस, इफ आई वांट टू highlight these changes, I have to become a civil servant. Okay, so civil servant is a person who can actually bring changes to a particular system. Same thing was seen as a part of the जोग्राफर्स ऑल्सो, कि जोग्राफर्स भी अपने सिर्फ शब्दों से बाहर निकलना है एंड उन्हें अपने काम पे फोकस करके काम करके दिखा के पॉलिटिक्स में जाना है, स्ट्रक्चर्स में एंटर करना है, एंड दे हैव टू ब्रिंग चेंजेस इन द सोसाइटी. एंड बस बोल बच्चन नहीं करना है, काम करके दिखाना है. सो दिस वाज द स्टैंस ऑफ द सोशल जस्टिस एंड सोसाइटी हियर. Then revolutionary position was also taken here. Society requires replacement, not merely the reform. अब society में आप क्या कर सकते हो? If there is, we can say there is racism. What is the solution of this racism? क्या है रेसिज्म का सॉल्यूशन? कोई ब्लैक है यूएसए में रह रहा है, इंडियन यूएसए जा रहे हैं, चाइनीज जा रहे हैं, ओके, देन वी हैव सर्टन जो साउथ अमेरिका के लोग हैं वो यूएसए जा रहे हैं, वहां पे वो काम कर रहे रह रहे हैं. सो इफ दिस रेसिस्ट वी कैन से व्यू, इफ इट इज स्टिल प्रेवलेंट देयर, व्हाट कैन बी द सॉल्यूशन? क्या सॉल्यूशन हो सकता है? सॉल्यूशन क्या ये है कि हमें यूएसए का जो कंप्लीट सिस्टम है उसे ही हमें ओवरथ्रो कर देना पड़ेगा, जो डेमोक्रेटिक सेटअप है उसे ओवरथ्रो करना है, जो लोग रेसिज्म को सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं उन लोगों को ही हमें खत्म कर देना है? नहीं, दिस इज नॉट द सॉल्यूशन. बट दिस वाज अ रेवोल्यूशनरी फेज व्हिच वाज प्रिस्क्राइब्ड हियर बाय द David Harvey. Then, spatial justice concept, which was seen here. He linked the Marxist analysis with geographical spaces, showing how capitalism creates unequal geographical development. अब यहाँ पे we will say that कि जो radicalism and Marxism, particularly Marxism, he was against the capitalism, against capitalism. Now, one question I would like to ask you, that what is actually capitalism? थोड़ा आप इस पे सोचिए and do write your views in the comment box which is provided here. What is capitalism? Capitalism actually क्या है? Do provide your responses here. What is capitalism? Do provide your responses in the comment box. If we make this session an interactive session, we will be able to understand the phenomena in a better way. Okay. Hello, Ashray. Okay. How are you, Ashray? Ashish, Ashas. Asis Ray. Hello, Asis Ray. How are you? Okay, do provide your responses that what is actually capitalism and how geography see capitalism as. Is capitalism important to thrive? Is capitalism is actually bad? Is capitalism good? The countries where the capitalism is prevailing, are they very good? Are they very bad? The people who are living in a capitalist country, are they good? Or the people are suffering under the capitalism approach? Okay. So private individuals own market means of production. Very good, Umila. Okay. Any other aspirants who would like to add on the capitalism? Okay. So here we see that capitalism is something where there is means of market production is controlled. For example, I have certain amount of production, I have control over the resources. Resources can be land, it can be water, it can be labor, it can be we can say money, that is capital, actual capital we call it as. So these things, when it is controlled by a single individual or a private entity, it is basically a capital, okay, or capitalism. Capitalism is not bad, should be regulated. Very good, Urmila. Actually, it is not bad, it have to be regulated, because we can see that USA, one of the countries thriving in the contemporary time, it is a capitalist country. But yes, there is employment is present, there is unemployment is also present, but welfareism is also highly prevalent, thus it is regulated. We can see Norway, Sweden, okay, Poland. So these are also capitalist based countries, okay, they are democratic country and capitalist based countries, but with the prevalence of welfareism, the socialism, okay, with the welfare of, with the prevalence of the, we can say, humanism, those countries are one of the best countries to live in the world right now. Okay, so this is not just capitalism is bad, but how capitalism is Sir's virgin mother. Assis Ray, if you focus on what you should study right now, that will be more important. Okay. Okay. So let's move forward. So the second point, which was given by the David Harvey, that was the limits to capital. There should be a limits to capital. That is important for us to understand that what David Harvey's stance on radicalism. Okay, so Ashish, you are going out of the way right now. I have to see that how you can be taken up as a part here. Okay, so let's move to the next part here. The limits to capital. Further elaborated Marxist theoretical framework here. Analyzed how capitalist accumulation creates spatial contradictions, demonstrated role of geography in the capital circulation. So this was something which we see that, which was also quite important to see the Marxist approach in the geography with respect to the limits to the capital part here, and how this uh, analysis of the capitalist accumulation, they created the spatial contradictions within a particular system. So this is a demonstrated role of geography in the capital circulation. Then how is epistemological contributions? He made Marxism accessible to the geographers. This was a very one of the very important part, which was seen as the geographical stance. Then he showed historical materialism operates across the space. This is also important. Then established that understanding unequal development, it requires understanding capitalist production relations here. So this is also we see that, which was quite important to see, that unequal development was important, which required understanding capitalist production relations here. Now, after him, there was a Peet's Marxist evolution. Initially, Peet was associated with the radical approach. Now he is having a Marxist evolution. How this is done, let's see it. The Rod Peet's trajectory exemplifies the intellectual transformation of the period here. Now, under the liberal phase, early work on poverty distribution focused on the surface manifestations. Okay, so in the initial part, it was seen more mere as a superficial phenomena or a surface phenomena. For example, if there is a poverty is prevailing, certain people they are not earning certain amount of money. So what it was seen that it is just because of the employment. But when it came to the Marxist perspective, it was seen that poverty is not just an issue of lack of money or lack of employment. It is also related to the capitalism. It is also related to the political structure. It is related to the social structure. It is also related to the other structures which are prevalent in the society, stopping people to get access to those minimal resources which are required for that person to survive. So here, the Marxist conversion, it said that it replaced liberal analysis with Marxist interpretation of poverty here. Now, the key insights that we can see, it redistributed through the liberal taxation mechanisms, which cannot solve the poverty. Okay, so here the liberal stance was also seen here, that how it can be seen as an important part of the solving the issue of the spatial inequality, which is poverty here. Now, the alternative vision which was seen, it advocated alternative environmental design with number one, removal of centralized bureaucracy, then decentralized community control models, then community based decision makings. These were the three important approaches which was taken up as an important call to action for solving the issue of poverty which is prevalent in the society. Then the activist position was also taken here. It believed geographers should actively work towards this transformation. So it was not asking geographers merely to write their stances, merely to write their understanding over the geographical phenomena or on poverty, but he was asking the geographers to take action to what will actually happen in this, what will happen for this particular change here. Okay. Now, the terminological crisis and disciplinary consolidation, that is late 1970s and late 1980s. So the problem of terminology, what we can see, by the late 1970s, the term radical became problematic due to political appropriation. Now, one important stance that we can see here that we need to understand, radical was something, radical was a term which was associated with, we can say, the pro communists. Okay, it was more getting associated with the communist ideology there. So therefore, what we see that this became a problematic for the political appropriation. The new right movement, the Thatcherism and the Reaganomics claimed the radical label. They have given themselves as the radical label here. Now, next in the terminological confusions, the original radicalist needed alternative terminology. Okay, here the disciplinary split what had taken place. The different geographers adopt different labels based on epistemological preferences. Epistemological means majorly it is related with how there is a basic stance which is taken by a particular geographers for solving the problem of the society. Three distinct approaches which emerged in the radical approach here. Okay, here we have the structuralist approach, which is one of the most important and most famous approach for solving the problem of the society. Definition and framework we will see, that is structuralism. It analyzes geographical phenomena through three interconnected levels of analysis, rejecting simple empiricism while maintaining objectivity through the structural analysis. Okay, so these were the three important part which was taken up as a study of the structuralism. Three levels of analysis which were seen here. Number one, the superstructure, the level of the appearance. Number two, the infrastructure, the level of the processes. And number three, the deep structures, that is level of imperatives. So these were the three level of structures that were formed here. Superstructures, we will see that directly observable and empirically studied. So in a particular stance, we will see here that if I am looking at certain problem of society, if I'm looking at certain problem of society, I can view it, I can study that how many people are poor, what is the basic earning which is resulting into their low income, or the income numbers. Okay, that is the BPL, which we study in India. Then this was studied in the form of economic organization, social structures, cultural systems, political institutions, and spatial organizations. So these were seen as the basic part of the superstructures which can be observed, which can be empirically studied. Limitations, what we will see here, it cannot explain its own existence through the observation alone. It cannot be understood without reference to the underlying infrastructure. So, if I want to understand that what is the economic organization, it is a cooperative organization, it is a capitalist organization, it is a governmental organization. So, we need to study the infrastructure. Okay, this is superficial, this is the infrastructure second level, and this is the third level of this particular structure. So, this is a superstructure, this is an infrastructure, and the third part here we have, that is the deep structure. Okay, so under infrastructure, it is not directly observable in nature. For example, if I have a company, this company, it is having its own certain profit and certain losses. It has certain customer base, but there are certain companies who are regularly investing in this company so that the investors will also have certain capital increment or profits, and the company itself can enjoy the better resources and make its companies or profits better. So under this, the companies which are running behind, they cannot be observed here. Can only be theorized through the comparison with the superstructures. So we need to say that how the superstructures are actually present, and they are working on the basis of which we can identify that what are the infrastructures which are working behind them. Then it comprises processes creating and maintaining superstructure. Then it requires theoretical analysis rather than empirical observation only. So here we need to interlink certain theories to understand these infrastructures, which cannot be only observed by the certain numbers of observation or economic, we can say empirical studies here. So the key principle here is no deterministic relationship between infrastructure and the superstructure. So infrastructure and superstructure cannot be interlinked directly, but infrastructure have to be studied by studying the various superstructures and various, we can say, the components of superstructures and analyzing them. This can only explain us what is infrastructure. Then level number three, that is the deep structure, that is level of imperative, ultimate cause of observable phenomena. If we are having certain thought process, so what is the what is the cause of this thought process? Is it something related to only capitalism? Is it related only something to the political view? Is it only related to certain educational thing? No, there are certain things which are running behind them, which is part of the deep structure. And these deep structure, they are the actual cause of certain phenomena which is taking place over the space. For example, just before 50 years from now, in India, the prevalence of what we can say the insurance system was just around 3 to 4%, and currently it is 11 to 12%. So why people are opting for the insurance where the insurance was not very much highly seen as a very good part, because we used to live in a part of a we can say the joint family system. Okay, from joint family, why the thought of single or nuclear family? Nuclear family it came into existence. Why the nuclear family came into existence? Okay, there were certain propagandas which have been shown in the previous part in during the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, 80s, that joint family is a bane. It is not a good thing. Here you cannot enjoy your complete freedom. Here you cannot exercise your freedom. So these were certain things which were put into the mind of people, and it resulted into the development of single or the nuclear family system. When you are living in a nuclear setup or a single family, your certain issues were taken care by the other family members. For example, if an accident occurs in a family, so when the people used to live in a joint family, everyone used to take care of that particular person. But when it became a nuclear family, it is very difficult for the other member of family to come and take care of that particular person. Therefore, the term of insurance, it came into existence that yes, if the family members are not available, who will take care of that person? So the insurance people, they came forward and they start selling this insurance. So here we see that the destruction of one of the family system, that was the joint family, and the resurgence of the insurance setup system, it went out as a part of the propaganda which was done by certain people, certain, we can say, the people who are involved as a part of the deep structure. Okay. Now, next part. It is not directly accessible to the observation. No, it cannot be directly observed here. But it is basically seen as a part of the propaganda which is run in the society. It is revealed through the theoretical study of superstructure patterns. Okay, in the superstructure, where the companies are investing, what companies from the foreign land are coming to the Indian land and they are investing in India, in which companies they are investing in India. So when we study this particular aspect, we can understand that how this deep structure, they are interrelated with the superstructure or the change in the society. Then it represents fundamental organizing principles here. So what can be the fundamental organizing principles? They can also be studied here with respect to the deep structure. Now, looking at the theoretical relationship, I have drawn uh, certain chart here which will help us to understand this structural phenomena in a better way. So there are deep structure which are imperatives. It operates through the process which are in here. Then infrastructure, which is basically the processes. And infrastructure, it creates and maintains what? It creates and maintains the superstructure, which is basically an appearance. So if you'll go to a mall, if you will go to a mall here, if you will ask your parents, they do not like mall. They will never go to a mall system. Why? Because mall is something which is the globalization phenomena. And the globalization phenomena of mall, it is not adhering to our cultural bazaar. Okay, our cultural bazaar, it is not interlinking with it here. Therefore, what we see that the appearance here, it is of mall, but infrastructure here, it will see that it is quite different in this mall, and it is also quite different in the cultural bazaar. The deep structure, it is also quite different in the small, and it is also quite different in the cultural bazaar here. Therefore, what is this system, what we are seeing here, that is very much imperative. And to understand it, we need to see that how there is a process, what process this, or by this process, this small is developed. By what imperatives this deep structures or this particular processes are implied. How, what are the processes which are operating in this small? So to understand the complete concept of mall, we need to understand the deep structure, infrastructure, and the superstructure also. Key principles we will see here, that no deterministic relation exists between infrastructure and superstructure. A single process can result in multiple outcomes depending on number one, the enabling factors, the constraining factors, the contingent circumstances, and the specific contextual conditions. So these are the four factors which help us to understand the outcome, which can be driven by a single kind of process which is running over the, we can say, the processes under the imperative deep structure. Then the next theorist who came here, who was the founding theorist for this Marxist geographer, that is Claude Lévi-Strauss. Okay, Claude Lévi-Strauss. So in the background, he was a French anthropologist and intellectual founder of the structuralism. The core contribution to the geography, which was done by the Claude Levi-Strauss, so he developed the structural analysis methodology. He showed how underlying structures organize observable cultural phenomena, then influence the geographical analysis of cultural landscape and social organization also. There was certain philosophical similarity, but structuralism shares with existential phenomenology. Okay, existential phenomenology, we have studied this as a part of the humanist geography. That is, the goal of finding ultimate causes of observable phenomena through methodology differs here, though methodology differs here. So these two things, how they can be interconnected, how they can be different. This can be understood by the type of the existential phenomenology and the study of this structuralism. Now, next is the realist approach. Okay, number one, what we have seen here, that was the structuralism. Okay, this I can take here as number one. Number two, I can take here as the realist approach. Now, what is a realist approach? We need to understand in a very detailed part, because this also becomes uh, one of the foundational basis for the radicalism and Marxism. Have you understand this concept of uh, the structuralism, Urmila? Do you have any doubt in this topic? Okay, then let's move forward to the realist approach. Now, the definition and the theoretical framework. Realism is referred to is a refined form of structuralism. Okay, here we can say it is a refined form of structuralism concerned specifically with superstructure and infrastructure. Okay, so here we can see that we have level 1, level 2, and level 3. So this realism, it is only attached with the superstructure and the infrastructure. It is not associated with the deep structure. So this is realism. How this works? Let's understand this. Using the rigorous ontological frameworks to understand causal mechanisms. Okay, so here we are trying to understand the ontological frameworks to understand this phenomena here. Okay, if we look at the study understanding of the rigorous ontological framework, it is basically one of the branch of metaphysics. Okay, it is an important branch of the metaphysics where the relation is shown between the concepts and categories. Concept and categories in a specific area or domain. So this is seen as a part of the metaphysics part, which is actually included under the ontological framework. So here we can see that the metaphysical thing is taken into consideration, which is again away from positivism. Okay, so this is one important aspect which we need to understand the realist approach. So three domains of reality is seen here. Number one, the domain of empirical. If I want to understand something, I will look into the data, statistics, and various kind of situations here. Number one, it concerns solely with the experiences directly perceived. So what I'm experiencing, what I'm perceiving out of a particular interaction or my experience, it is looking at those things only. What our senses tells us. Observable events and phenomena limited to appearance levels here. So here we can say that it is very much similar to the humanist, and it is also very much we can say interrelated to the behavioral, humanist and behavioral, where we are talking about the personal experiences, where we are talking about the senses, where we are talking about the observable events and phenomena. Okay. Now, the domain of actual, this is the second, we can say, a domain of reality. It is concerned with both events and experiences. So here we are not just talking about the experiences, but the event which has taken place plus the experience which we have actually undergone through. So under this part, what we will say that any event, like there can be a birthday, there can be a particular fest at your college, there can be a particular cultural festival in your village, there can be just an event of like if you got ill and you got admitted to hospital. So it will give you a different kind of experience there also. So this is concerned by both the event, that what event was and what we experienced in that particular event. It includes events we don't directly perceive. Okay, so it also takes into consideration what were the events which were directly concerned with us and the events which were not directly concerned with us but which influenced us. For example, the RBI policy, a government scheme, a political debate. So these are something we can also say the certain climate change phenomena. Okay, so these are certain things which are not directly associated with us, but they actually impact us in one or the other way. Then it encompasses unobservable occurrences. Okay, unobservable occurrences, for example, there is a change in the air, we can say air value. So here we see that in the Delhi region, the air quality is declining day by day. So what we see here that the air quality cannot be observed directly, but to understand it, we need to see that what are the unobserved things here which are resulting into the decline of the air quality. Then it is broader than purely empirical. So this is an important aspect where it is not just the data which is helping us to come to a conclusion, but it is the complete picture which we need to set up with the help of the data, that how this particular event has taken place and how we have experienced those particular things here. Okay. Then the real domain of the real, that is number three. Okay, so it concerned with structures and the mechanism. Okay, so here it we are introducing the structures and the mechanisms of the structure. The structures can be apprehended through reason, though not direct observation. Okay, it can be sought through the reasoning, which we cannot deal as a part of the observation. For example, the decline in air quality. I have certain data that it was 100, then 150, then 200, now it is around 350. So this can be empirical data can be connected here, and we can reason out that what can be the actual cause for the decline in the air quality. This can be understood with this particular apprehension. Then comprises mechanisms producing the events. Okay, what can be the mechanisms here? It can be stubble burning. Okay, number one. It can be, we can say, the construction of houses. It can be thermal power plant. It can be the vehicular pollution. So these are the certain things. Apart from this, there are also certain other factors like the, we can say that the formation of the high pressure system over the region of Delhi, then the jet stream impact. So these are certain things which we can understand and we can apply these mechanisms over those particular events here. Then it contains causal powers and tendencies that generate what we observe empirically. So what we are observing, we can generate those and we can interrelate it with the causal powers which is contained by it and the tendencies which are contained by it. In this way, we can see that what reality is. So this can be understood here. Now, the ontological hierarchy which we see here, that is the previous part, the domain of real, the structures and mechanisms generates through causal powers. Domains of actuals, that is events, whether observed or not, okay, which is a subset of which are the domain of empirical, directly perceived experiences. So this thing we can interrelate here with respect to the ontological studies and the ontological hierarchy. Now, when we need to understand the difference between the realism and positivism, when we look at the goal, realism says it explains events through structures and discovers causes, while positivism says it discovers universal laws through the regularities. Causation says what causes change is independent of regularity. Causation says observed regular patterns can be seen here. Applicability to social science, realism says acknowledges unpredictability and variability, while the positivism says it assumes universal laws applicable everywhere, which is never true. Then human agency, central to the explanation, highly variable in space and time, while the positivism says it is treated as constant or controlled variable. Under the systems part, we can see it deals with the open system, that is realism, typical in social sciences, while for the positivism, it is designed for the closed system experimental conditions only. So these are certain, we can say, the differences or the key differences between the realism and positivism here. Okay. Now, there was a generalization strategy to understand what is actually seen as a part of the structuralism or the realism here. So, for the realism, the natural sciences, it develops universal laws through closed system experiments, as we have seen in the previous part. For social sciences, it cannot use closed systems due to human variability. Humans, they can never be in a closed system. They are a part of open system because they are consistently changing matter and energy with their environment. Okay, so this is an important aspect. Realist solution develop particularistic generalizations which are accounting for number one, specific structural conditions, particular spatial context, variable human agency in different places, and historical contingencies, which is actually provided as part of the solutions of the realist problems here. The key realist principle that we can apply here, the focus on understanding mechanisms producing changes rather than finding universal regularities. In geography, this means understanding structures generating unequal spatial development. So this is the one important part that was I was saying about. That is, we have education, okay, which is particularly we are undergoing in the form of an institution. Then we have political structure, can be democratic, it can be communist, or it can be liberal. It can be, we can say, the republic. Then we have economic structure. Okay. In an economic structure where we are standing at, what we are understanding in this contemporary time, how much money I am earning, by what means I am earning this money. This is taken as part of economic structure. Why I am not earning lakhs of rupees every day. This is also part of an economic structure. Then after the economic, we can also go for the social structure. Why it is like that? Certain people get more respect in society and certain people do not get respect in society. Why it is like certain people are classified on the basis of the caste and certain people are not classified on the basis of the caste. Why certain people, they can go to certain regions easily, they can get access to certain people easily, but certain people cannot get access to certain people easily. So these structures are important and they are interconnected, and this gives us a reality where we are living right now. And to understand the spatial inequality, To understand the spatial inequality, we can actually go through these structures, which are basically an observable phenomena, and we can understand that how this spatial inequality it can be understood. But yes, if you want to go to a deeper dive, you need to also understand the deeper structure and the infrastructure. Then next topic here we have, that is the Marxist geography. Okay, moving ahead, before moving ahead, the structuralism and the realism. Do you have any doubt here, or you have understood this part? We'll be also going through the case studies to understand this phenomena in a better way. Have you understood this part? Any doubts here? Cleared. Okay, very good. Now, let's move to the next topic, that is the Marxist geography. Now, as we have discussed in the previous part only, that there was a radical stance, but radical, it was more of a revolutionary part. Basically, it was more of a liberal part. So it became quite more extreme in the form of Marxism. And liberal part, it went with the welfarism. Liberal part, it went out with the welfarism, while Marxism, it became more revolutionary. Therefore, there was the birth of the Marxist approach in human geography. Let's understand this. The conceptual foundation. Marxist geography situates within realism while asserting a specific causal relationship between infrastructure and superstructure derived from Karl Marx's analysis of capitalism. So analysis of capitalism is one of the work which is done by Marx. Okay, so on the basis of which it is asserting, it is uh, it is inclined to the realism, but also there is a relationship of infrastructure and superstructure in understanding the Marxist philosophy and the Marxist geography. The core Marxist position which is taken here, that is the basis economic or the capitalist production, which determines or heavily influences the superstructures. What are the superstructures? Political, cultural, social, and the spatial organization, which we have discussed in the previous part. Now, the central focus and objectives of this particular Marxist geography that we can see here. The Marxist geographers analyze, number one, the social problems in the capitalist societies. Number one, inequality and class stratification. Yes, it is prevalent. Poverty and deprivation, yes, it is highly present. For example, in India, we can see currently also we have more than 20% of people who are living below the uh, below the BPL, that is the below poverty line. Okay, and deprivation of basic food, basic education, basic housing, basic clothes, then basic public amenities like good water, clean water, potable water, then sanitation. Okay, so certain things they are deprived of. Unequal spatial development. Okay, for example, in certain villages or towns, if you'll go, certain section of that particular town, it will be developed. There will be available of all the amenities. But if we will go to the other part of the village, here the people who are residing, they will not be enjoying all the amenities that are being enjoyed by this particular region. Therefore, this is developed region and this is underdeveloped. So we need to see that how this is resulting into the spatial inequality. This is highlighted by the Marxist philosophy. Then environmental degradation and exploitation. This is a very important aspect where the radical thought coming into the form of Marxist geography, it is actually explaining that how the capitalism, what capital does, it creates commodity. It creates a commodity. For example, if there is a watch which is of 10,000 rupees, so is it important for me or for you to buy that watch? I will say no. because what watches we have, it does a work. But this commodity, when it is provided in the society in the form of, it have to be possessed. So this becomes a commodification. It becomes a commodification of the product. Now this product which is formed here, it is taken from the various natural resources. कोई एलियन टेक्नोलॉजी तो है नहीं कि बना के उसे बढ़िया तरीके से सस्टेनेबली क्रिएट करके सोसाइटी या तो मार्केट में उसे पुट अप किया. It has been taken out of certain natural resources, and these natural resources, they are getting exploited. For example, in certain situations, I've seen that people buy new clothes. Clothes are something which can get degraded, but people buy certain things which are not necessary every month or every year. So this gives us a tendency that we need to repeatedly buy something which we do not require it also. So this is exploitation. Exploitation of what? It is exploitation of environment. So this is something which is not directly, but indirectly interconnected with the capitalism. So the exploitation of environment, it is directly attached with the capitalism here, indirectly attached with the capitalism here. Then the causal mechanism, which is taken under the part of this Marxist geography. How capitalist mode of production generates this problem? So we can understand this here. We can take up the example of watch. We can take up example of earphones. We can take up example of certain things like certain plastic material or plastic toys, or we can say amenities that are not sustainable, cheap, very cheap. The same thing, if you will go for the metal part, it will be 500. But if you'll go for the plastic, it is 50 or 100 rupees. But is it really important? Is it really needed? That is the question here. Then role of profit accumulation in driving exploitation. When we are exploiting environment and we are taking certain profit out of it, so here there is a positive feedback mechanism that there will be expansion of commodity production, commodification will also expand, natural resources exploitation will expand, and the environmental degradation will also expand in this particular case here. Therefore, the role of profit accumulation in driving exploitation is also seen. The spatial manifestations of capital circulation is also seen by this particular, we can say by this particular, the flow chart that we have drawn here. Then connection between the capitalism and environmental destruction can also be seen, that capitalism, how it is resulting into the destruction of the environment. Historical materialism in geography. Let's look at this. Central tenet. The capitalist societies are oriented fundamentally towards the profit accumulation through exploitative relations here. The process of transformation. Number one, exploitation. Capitalism creates and perpetuates class exploitation, inequality, spatial injustice. Okay, so this is always seen here. For example, there is a certain product which is of just 1000 rupees. Okay, now certain section of people, they can easily buy that 1000 rupees merchandise, but certain section of society who are not even earning 5000 to 10,000 rupees per month, it is kind of something which is beyond their capability to buy in this particular setup here. So this is an exploitation, but those people, they will be highlighting here, they will be reminded again and again that you need to buy this, you need to buy this. Okay, so whenever they start earning more, it will be the first thing that they will be buying those things that is already present in their mind first. Okay, then magnitude increase. The contradictions and the problems intensify over the time. Now, these problems, they will be increasing with time rather than their declination with the time. The accumulation of dissatisfaction. Growing social discontent reaches the critical threshold. For example, if we are into the certain materialism, okay, where we are accumulating material. So after a particular point of time, we will be fed up with the accumulation of material, because it is not a human tendency to accumulate material, but a human tendency is to be happy. So just accumulation of material can it give happiness to human beings? No, that is not point here. Therefore, it will result into the social disconnect, where it will start reaching the threshold, because we are into something where for the accumulation of material, we have been disconnected with the social aspect here. Then the revolutionary change, the system replaced by more egalitarian social formation. This egalitarian social formation, this is described by Marx, and this is described as one of an important foundation for the communist society. So this is an important basis or foundation for the communist society, where the kind of commodification will not be present. Whatever the means of production will be there, it will be just for the society to live a happy and healthy life. Okay. Now, geographical significance here. The unequal spatial development is not accidental but inherent to capitalism's accumulation of logic. Now, I want to explain this part here. During 1960s, okay, sorry, not 1960s, but during 1600, okay, we will see that there was rise of the, we can say, the trade in Europe. Because of trade in the distant lands, they were able to have high profits. With these high profits, they were able to create capital, and this capital, it was used for the development of more profits. For a thirst of more profit, the kind of system which started to develop, that was capitalism. That is the investment in distant lands, and this capitalism, it went on to the extreme form in the form of imperialism. First, it was the colonization. Colonization occurred, and with this colonization, there was prevalence of imperialism. This imperialism or imperial structures were formed. This is also structure. This imperialism, it is also structure which was prevalent before the 1950s in a very high manner. This imperialism, this structure was destroyed, but the same imperialism now it is seen in the form of multinational companies, which are also having a profit motive, okay. So here, when we read this particular line, the geographical significance, unequal spatial development is not accidental but inherent to the capital's accumulation logic. So this thing, it is also prevalent in the contemporary time. The majority of the industries, or the majority of the companies which are still having the highest capital, those are the companies which were formed in 1600s, 1700s, 1800s, which were having the motive of the capital accumulation. Now, the key contribution to the geographical thought by the Marxist approach. It demonstrated the spatial patterns reflect class retentions. It showed cities embody capitalist accumulation processes. This is also true. It revealed that geography itself is political, space is contested terrain. Okay, so it is political space is a contested terrain, which we have seen in the form of the imperialism and the colonization. Currently, we are also fighting a war. Okay, that is a company's war in the form of the multinational companies formation. It made clear that solving spatial inequality requires systematic change here. Systematic change, like overthrow of the capitalism and the rise of the egalitarian society. Then, moving to the next part, there are certain limitations and criticisms of radicalism here. When we look at the criticisms of radicalism, so number one, we will say that the humanist geography they have critic radicalism as radicalism subsumed human tendency to abstract structure. The structure which is given by the radicalism, it is abstract. It is just, we can say that is an observable phenomena. But under this, if we will try to attach certain human experience, so it is not experienced here. Okay, so there was a overemphasis of structural determinism, which is given as a part of radicalism and the Marxism. It underestimated the human creativity and capacity for change. It is saying that there have to be a revolution which is needed for the change in the society. But humanism says that it is the human creativity which will result into the change in the society. So these are something which are attached to the radicalism, and this is attached to the humanism, which is very important for the changes and the approaches to bring development in the society. Then there was a humanist argument also. Human agency is far more powerful and creative than the structuralist recognize. Like how we see a structure is. Okay, structure like there is a education structure. So this structure is not very rigid that human agencies cannot overcome it. Yes, if humans want, they can change this structure. They can change that what is the approach of development of education in a region, in a country, or over the world. So it is not a something which is not which cannot be dealt with or which cannot be worked with. Now, people can find solutions without waiting for systematic revolution. Okay, they can find solution. People cannot wait for the revolution to occur. Instead, they can find solutions within themselves by creating their own results. It emphasizes individual and community level action. So individual action can be also be taken, and community level executions and actions can also be taken to bring changes in the society. Significance: heightened tensions between the structural analysis and the human anatomy was seen between radicalism and the humanist approach. Then critical and postmodern critic. Postmodern, if we will say that, it is behavioral plus humanist plus radical plus welfare plus environmental. So these are the part of the postmodern here. Critical, when we talk about, it is majorly related to the feminist, then it can be related to the functionalist also. Then position radicalism lost focus from actual societal problems. Specific criticisms, when we talk about, too preoccupied with structural analysis and theoretical abstraction. Okay, what theories we are giving for the for the poverty, that is the capitalism and imperialism. So capitalism is something that is an issue, but it is not like a certain section of society. A poor cannot get education and he can get an employment, and by increasing income he cannot come out of that particular loop. So this was something which was given as a critique here. It lost connection between theory and practical problem solving. For solving anything, revolution is not an only issue. You have to, you can endure it. You can use your particular creativities to solve that problem here. It became purely critical without offering implementable solutions. Okay, so here, becoming purely critical without offering the solution, it cannot result into any kind of solution here. Theoretically sophisticated but practical ineffectiveness was seen here. Then substituted structural critique for addressing real human suffering. For example, what a poor is suffering from, what are the issues of poor? Instead of highlighting it, I am highlighting that the problem is capitalism. The problem is capital accumulation. The problem is the political will. The problem is the education system. So instead of highlighting the problems of those particular section of society, we are looking at the problems which are seen here. So this was taken as one of the criticism also here. Certain people, they said that this is biased. Radicalism and and Marxism, it is biased, and particularism critique is seen here. Like Marxist bias, Marx is criticized for focusing exclusively on working class and class relations, while one neglecting race, gender, caste, and other dimensions of inequality. Okay, Marxism just went for that part. Marx did not highlighted that black and white issue is there. Marx did not highlighted that there is an issue of we can say gender, that female and the men, what are the issues between them. Marx did not highlighted that there are different castes in the society and what are the issues of the different castes within themselves. So these were certain dimensions of inequality which was not prevalent in the Marxism, treating non-class identities as the secondary to the class. So he have given two classes. One is the capitalist class and second is the labor class. And what are the other classes? They are not defined by Marx here. Then universalizing the working class experience. So this is something which was very much inherent to the Marx, that he was looking at everything from the perspective of the workers. Farmers neglected, okay. Then we can say the medical people, they were neglected, engineers neglected, but working class, they were taken as the prime motive here, missing the intersectional nature of the oppression. Okay, so it is not like only the labor class are being oppressed. It is like certain people who are working under particular setup, they are also suppressed or oppressed by the people who are present above them. But they are also prevalent into the either in the deep structure, they are also present either in the infrastructure. But this was not highlighted here. Only the class struggle is highlighted here. So these were certain things which were seen as the biasness of the Marx here. Okay. So here we will see a case study here. Okay, I will do a case study too. That is radicalism. That is liberal and welfare phase. I will be doing this case study. Case study one you can go through yourself. Theoretical context we will see here. According to the text, early radicalism, that is late 1960s, began with a liberal attitude spearheaded by geographers like Richard Morrill and the early work of Peet. Their focus was to highlight problems like inequality and investigate how social problems manifested in space. This we have already covered. Key concept we will see. Morrill argued for the creation of growth centers in poverty-ridden areas to create employment and induce development. Limitations are also there. This phase investigated the surface of problems, distribution rather than the root, that is production mode, believing that spatial planning could solve the societal issues. So this was the one limitation that was seen in the Morrill's, we can say, approach. This case, the KBK region, that is Odisha, and the failure of growth center strategies. So Odisha is one of the states in India which is a coastal state, but it is having an issue of the low level of development. So when we look at the background, the Kalahandi, Balingar and Koraput region in Odisha is synonymous with the extreme poverty, starvation deaths and acute underdevelopment. It represents a classic poverty-ridden area that early radical geographers sought to address here. Now, when we apply the radicalist or the liberal theory to this context, identification of inequality. In line with the social relevance movement, geographers and planners identified the KBK region as distinct special pocket of deprivation amidst a developing nation. The focus was on manifestation of poverty, that is hunger, high infant mortality rate, and low literacy rate in the region. When we look at the growth center solution of Morrill's approach, the Indian state, adopting a welfare liberal radical approach, attempted to solve the spatial inequality through specific growth center interventions. Now, बात करेंगे कौन-कौन यहाँ पे आया? So first is Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. Okay, that is established by the government. Was established in Sunabeda, that is Koraput. Nalco, National Aluminium Company, was set up in Damanjodi. Then long-term action plans we look at focused on pumping funds into the region, which we do through the planning part actually. Then analysis and critique. The radical lesson was seen here. While the industrial growth center were established, as Morrill suggested, they failed to elevate the region's poverty, validating the later Marx critique. The liberal forms are insufficient here. Okay. Now, when we look the same thing from the other's perspective, like island of development, the HAL and Nalco townships became island of prosperity, completely disconnected from the surrounding tribal hinterland. Now, this is something which is quite unique in this region, that Development started, but the tribal development did not occur, and there was a kind of a boundary which became between this developed territory and the undeveloped territory. The lack of the trickle down effect. Okay, one of the important theory of the economics, that is a trickle down effect. It did not occur as it was believed. The high-tech nature of the industries, that is aerospace and aluminum, meant local tribal populations were unemployable. The employment generation Morrill hoped for did not materialize for the locals. Instead, skilled labor migrated from the outside. This is a major highlight which we see here, that the local employment it lacked because the institutions which were providing specific skills to the people who should be employable was not present in the region. So this is basically a structural issue which is highlighted by the Marxism. So persistence of inequality remained here. Despite special planning interventions, the structural causes, that is land alienation, lack of forest rights, exploitation by moneylenders, remained untouched till now also. Now, conclusion we will see. This case exemplifies the liberal radical phase. It successfully highlighted the geography of inequality, but failed to solve it because it relied on special fixes, that is, growth centers, without addressing the underlying social structures here. Okay, there is a case study 3 also. There is case study 4. You can go through that part here. Now, this is first part of the topic. Have you understood? Do you have any doubt here? Then we'll go to the postmodern and the functionalist geography to understand the Marxist geography in a better way. Okay, things are clear. Any doubt, any queries here? If I'll give you a certain question on this part, you will be able to write answer. Okay, clear. Now, let's move to the next aspect of the geography, that is modernist, postmodernist, and functionalist geographies. Now, to understand this, these are the basically themes in perception. Now, how they are looked upon as, when there was development of quantitative revolution, it was seen as a modern geography. When there was development of humanist, radical, and behavioral geography, this was seen as a postmodernist. Under the postmodernist, all of this behavioral, radical, and humanist, they were merged into the critical geography, and there was rise of the functionalist. So functionalists were the other form of the geographical thought which we see in the contemporary time. So if we will see the modernist geography, I'm just looking at the definition. Rest everything we have already covered here. So modernist geography, also known as spatial science or positivist geography, represents the dominant paradigm in geographical thought from 1950s to 1970s. In views, geography as a rigorous objective science discipline that should adopt quantitative methods, empirical observations, and logical positivist epistemology to discover universal laws governing the spatial patterns and human environment relationships. We have already covered this. You can go to this lecture. It is present in your account section when you will go to the lecture part. So we have covered the spatial analysis and locational analysis. We have already covered central place. This will be covered in the part of, we can say, the models, theories, and laws. Okay. Then we have to see here the functional regions and the nodal concept region. This will be covered in future. Then urban ecological models and human ecology. This will be also covered in future. Okay, spatial diffusion model. This will be also covered in future. Now, second part comes here, that is the postmodernist geography. This also we have covered in very well section. Now, Looking at the definition and core premise, postmodernist geography represents a fundamental epistemological break from modernist spatial science, okay, where we are looking at it rejects the grand narratives, universal laws, and claims to objective truth, instead foregrounding differences, plurality, power, discourse, and the social construction of space and knowledge. Here, what we will see here, the basic part, the core characteristics are anti-foundationalism. Okay, so there is a foundationalism and anti-foundationalism, no stability, universal truths, and no fixed meanings to anything. Deconstruction, critic of binary oppositions and hidden power relationships. Social constructs of the space. Space is produced through social, cultural, and political practices, not objectively given. Okay, so this is also an important point. Discourse and representation. Language, text, and images actively shape reality, not merely describes it. Then politics of knowledge. Who speaks? Who is silenced? Who benefits from particular knowledge claims? This is also seen as a part of the, we can say, the postmodernist geography. Plurality and otherness. Recognition of multiple, often conflicting perspectives and marginalized voices are one of the important part of this part here. Then historical emergence, when we will look at postmodernist geography emerged in 1980s and 1990s from several intellectual currents, like number one, post-structuralist theory, which was given by Derrida and Foucault, challenging the stable meanings. Number two, critical social theory, which is given by Marxist critique of capitalism, spatial forms. Number three, the feminist epistemology, challenging the masculine bias in the spatial sciences. Number four, the post-colonial theory, highlighting the Eurocentric bias in the geography. For example, everything we are studying for UPSC in geography, majority of the theories, models, laws, and everything, this is Eurocentric bias. Okay, either it is represented in the German school or French school, or we can say towards the British school, to a certain extent to the American school, but American school is also associated with the Anglo school. Therefore, it is called as Anglo-American school, because America, it was also one of the, we can say, colony of the Britishers and the French, and it has its roots. The geographical development has its roots in the British and the French context also. The number five, the cultural studies emphasizing the representation and the identity. So these are certain historical emergence of the postmodern geography. When we will look at the subcomponents of the postmodern geography, we have Michael Foucault and the power of geography. This is the work given by him. The space, power, and knowledge nexus. What he specifies here. Foucault demonstrates that space, knowledge, and power are necessarily interconnected. It is impossible to disassociate one from the another. The effective, the effective practice of freedom by people. Okay, this is also missing here. The practice of social relations missing. The spatial distribution in which people find themselves. Okay, so this is an important part here. Now, key components we will see here. The heterotopias, that is other spaces. Foucault identifies spaces that are fundamentally different from the all other spaces, containing otherness. Okay, we have seen place and placelessness. So here we have the space and other space, a concept which is given by Foucault to us, and operating according to the special rules. Examples include prisons and mental asylums, cemeteries and sacred temples, libraries and museums, beaches and public gardens. So these are certain places and the other, sorry, spaces and the other spaces which is described by Foucault here. Heterotrophias are real, localized, and organized spaces that simultaneously mirror, invert, and challenge the dominant spatial orders which are prevalent in the society. Okay, and the other spaces, they are not highly prevalent in the society, but they exist in the society. Then disciplinary power and the surveillance. Through analysis of the panopticon prison design, Foucault reveals how spatial arrangements, that is, observation tower, transparent cells, create disciplinary power that operates through. इंडिया में नहीं है, okay? आप इसको समझो. This is present as a part of study which was seen in the prism कि prism में कोई भी एक particular जो person है, what are his activities, but India में ये हम completely नहीं देख पा रहे because we have not implemented this perspective in the Indian system right now. So visibility, when we will see, it is constant possibility of being watched. Internalization, subjects discipline themselves through self-surveillance and control without coercion. Power operates through spatial arrangement, not over force. So this was an important part which was given by Foucault, that power operates in a particular spatial arrangement, which is not been seen as a part which is done by the force here. Then the government technologies which were used here, these are technology, that is spatial science and forms of power, sovereignty, territory, law of force, obedience, discipline, body and institution, surveillance and normalization, biopolitics done by population, health, statistics, life management. Then government, subjects, conduct and self-governance are seen here as a form of power and the spatial scale. Each operates for distinct spatial configurations, that is territory, state level, body, institutional level, population milieu at demographic level, and subjects to the individual level here. Then implications for the human geography. Cities are not neutral spaces, but sites where power is exercised and contested. Urban planning, zoning, and surveillance system embody power relations to a particular system. Marginalized groups develop counter spaces and resist dominant spatial orders in a particular region. Mapping power requires revealing how state, capital, and other forces dominate that particular space, because whenever we are using a map, we are specifying the dominant things which are present in that particular regions. Okay, next important theories here we have, that is the Henry Fabre and the production of the space. So space as a social product. He has given a part as space as a social product here. Revolutionary concept, that is Fabre argues that space is not a passive container but an actively produced social entity. What space according to him is? It is a social morphology, a form given to lived experience like form to a living organism. So this is an important part which is given by Fabre here. Lucien Fabre is different, who belong to the French school. This is Henri Fabre, who is belonging to the postmodernist school here. Intimately bound with the function and structure through everyday practices, a product of power relations, ideologies, and material practices, simultaneously a tool of power and field of struggle, which is seen here. The spatial triad, three moments of space production. Let's look at them. Space, perceived space here. Okay, physical material space as directly experienced through senses everyday spatial practice. Street layouts, neighborhoods, and visible urban form. Then conceived space, planned, represented space, how architects, planners, and authorities conceptualize and design the space. Example, master plans, zoning maps, architectural drawings, and utopian visions. Then lived space, experienced imagination, space of social actors, spaces lived through symbols, culture and social meaning includes the resistance and other part. Memories of places, cultural practices, appropriation of public spaces. So these are seen as a part of important spaces here. Now, when we look at the critical insight, these three spaces are often contradictory and in tension to each other. The planner's conceived space rarely aligns with the how ordinary people live and practice space. Thus, everyday life becomes a field of struggle over whose meanings and other uses of space prevail. So this is something like a space can be where I have certain vision with respect to space, and other person can have certain vision to that space. So this result into a conflict in my perception and the other person perception, resulting into daily struggle of that space there. Now, hegemony and hyper complexity. Fabre emphasized that space cannot be reduced to a single logic here. Multiple societal spaces simultaneously exist, overlap, nest, and interpenetrate here. This hypercomplexity of social space means hegemonic spatial orders always contain instabilities and contradictions. Okay, here we are saying that if that space is hyper complex, then there will always be hegemonic spatial orders. For example, there will be certain people who will be controlling them, then there will be certain people who will be below them, who will be running that particular system. So this will always result into the instabilities and the contradictions. आप भी देख सकते हैं, आपके पास में कहीं एक खाली प्लॉट होगा, तो वहां पे वो प्लॉट किसी और का है, वहां पे आके कोई और कुछ काम कर रहा है. सो दिस विल रिजल्ट इनटू कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. फिर वहां पे फिर कुछ इश्यूज हो गया, अगर कुछ कुछ मान लो कुछ असोशल एक्टिविटी हो रही है, सो दिस विल रिजल्ट इनटू द other issues again. So the subordinate groups create alternative spaces and challenge dominant spatial arrangements in those particular regions. Now, number three, David Harvey and historical geographical materialism. This is an important part of the postmodern geography. मेजर वर्क्स देखेंगे हम. सोशल जस्टिस एंड द सिटी, द कंडीशन ऑफ पोस्ट मॉडर्निटी, द लिमिट्स टू कैपिटल आर द की वर्क्स ऑफ डेविड हार्वे. इसमें से दो हम पहले ही देख चुके हैं. द स्पेसेस एंड सोशल जस्टिस, ये हम ऑलरेडी देख चुके हैं, मैं इसे रिपीट नहीं करूंगा. नाउ नंबर टू इज एन इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट ऑफ टाइम स्पेस कंप्रेशन एंड पोस्ट मॉडर्निटी. Harvey's analysis of postmodern capitalism reveals how flexible accumulation, the shift from Fordist mass production to flexible, specialized production, transforms space and time experiences. Okay, are you aware about the Fordist and the post-Fordist ideologies, or the Fordist and the post-Fordist concepts? क्या आपको इसके बारे में आइडिया है? क्या आपको इसके बारे में पता है? अगर पता है तो ठीक, नहीं तो आई विल जस्ट स्किप दिस पार्ट हियर. डू यू वांट मी टू एक्सप्लेन दिस फोर्डिज्म एंड पोस्ट फोर्डिज्म? ओके, कर ही लेते हैं. फोर्डिस्ट एरा, दैट इज 1930 टू 1970. नाउ फोर्ड कंपनी के बारे में आपने सुना होगा, विच इज वी कैन से ऑटोमोबाइल कंपनी. इनका जो ओनर था, हिज नेम इज हेनरी फोर्ड. Okay, Henry Ford was one of the person who have changed the urban morphology of USA. What he did, he was one of the richest person of this time, and he was into the manufacturing of the automobiles. Now, what he have done in the America before the 1930s, he have created a kind of a system where every American, every American who is above the age of 18 can get his own personal car. Okay, so this was one of the ideology which was developed here. So by this particular concept, what he sought that he have a production which was present in different regions of the world, okay, not only in United States, but उन्होंने ये देखा कि हम कहाँ कहाँ पे प्रोडक्शन यूनिट्स को इंस्टॉल कर सकते हैं, and he fixed those locations. In that time, majorly those were the United States of America only. So here he used to create an inventory. Okay, he used to have an assembly plant, he used to have a manufacturing plant, then he used to have his own foundry, his own welding. Okay, so every component here was developed by Ford. Now, प्रॉफिट तो बहुत हुआ, बट जैसे 1930s का जो द ग्रेट डिप्रेशन कहा जाता है, द ग्रेट डिप्रेशन फेज के, हियर द फोर्ड कंपनी इट वेंट इनटू अ वेरी crisis situation because such a large infrastructure, such large number of employees, they were not able to be sustained. Okay, so after this we see that Ford की ही one of the company है, that is Range Rover के बारे में आपने सुना है, Range Rover and Jaguar. So these two companies, they were acquired by Tata in 2000s. So the technology which was developed by Ford, which were present in America, those were brought to India. Okay. So here what he specified: standardized mass production in fixed location, stable spatial configuration and city structures, predictable urban development zoning, suburbs, clear CBD dominance, that is central business district. Modernist aesthetics, that is monumental, singular and rational things were applied here. But जो 1930 का जो ग्रेट डिप्रेशन था, उसके बाद में फोर्ड कंपनी तो एक तरफ रह गई, बट देयर वाज डेवलपमेंट ऑफ अदर कंपनीज आल्सो व्हिच हैव स्टार्टेड टू डेवलप देयर ओन वे ऑफ डीलिंग विद सच काइंड ऑफ इश्यूज. लाइक अगर मैं एक दिन में 1,000 कार बना रहा हूँ, सो मैं इन्वेंट्री किस तरीके से बनाता हूँ कि डेवलपमेंट ऑफ दोस पर्टिकुलर कंपोनेंट्स एंड सब कंपोनेंट्स, अगर मुझे एक महीना लग रहा है, सो आई विल बी हैविंग एन इन्वेंट्री ऑफ ऑलमोस्ट 1 मंथ. एक महीने की मैं इन्वेंट्री रख रहा हूँ. अ कार डेवलपमेंट और अ कार प्रोडक्शन, इट रिक्वायर्स थाउजेंड्स ऑफ कंपोनेंट्स. ये चीज याद रखना है हमें. सो थाउजेंड्स ऑफ चीजों की इन्वेंट्री हम क्रिएट कर रहे हैं. सो इट वाज अ वेरी बिग सिस्टम विच वाज क्रिएटेड बाय फोर्ड. अब यहाँ पे क्या हुआ कि देयर वाज अ नेक्स्ट कंसेप्ट व्हिच अराइज्ड इन जापान. जापान में देयर वाज अ कंसेप्ट ऑफ जस्ट इन टाइम. देयर वाज अ जस्ट इन टाइम कंसेप्ट. अब जस्ट इन टाइम कंसेप्ट में क्या हुआ कि देयर वाज जस्ट assembly plant was there and inventory was completely disabled. Inventory खत्म कर दी. For example, I am just manufacturing my chassis and जो मेरा खुद का जो what we said the engine है, so I'm just developing the chassis and engine. Rest everything I have outsourced. So what I will see here, आज की मान लो कि today is 13th of December. If I take a date of 15 December and 15 December को मुझे एक 1,000 cars को प्रोड्यूस करना है विद इन अ सिंगल डे और इन अ 1 week स्पैन, सो आई विल हायर द लेबर फॉर 1 week ओनली. मैं उन्हें एक्स्ट्रा पे करूंगा. मैं उन्हें 15 days की सैलरी पे कर दूंगा, बट मैं उन्हें सिर्फ 15 डे 1 week के लिए हायर करूंगा. In this particular duration, I will also give orders to the different companies over the world जो मुझे 1,000 components provide करेंगे on that particular day. And जैसे ही 15th of December है, I will start assembly and within 1 week I will be producing 1,000 cars. अब यहाँ पे चीजें क्या हुई कि असेंबली की मुझे सिर्फ जरूरत है, इन्वेंट्री की जरूरत नहीं है, फिक्स सिस्टम की जरूरत नहीं है, मैन्युफैक्चरिंग की जरूरत नहीं है, फाउंड्री की जरूरत नहीं है, वेल्डिंग की जरूरत नहीं है, अदर ऑफ कंपोनेंट्स की भी मुझे कोई जरूरत नहीं है. सो इन दिस वे देयर वाज अ delocalization. There was a delocalization of the small components to the developing countries. So there was a delocalization of industries from USA to the different regions of the world where these components can be developed in a cheaper way. So therefore there was a flexible accumulation, mobile capital, just-in-time production, rapid location changes, time-space compression. As distance and circulation time shrinks, experience of space and time also compresses. Fragmented, incoherent urban forms. As cities, gated communities, theme parks, and shopping malls were formed here. Postmodern aesthetics like pastiche, simulation, spectacle, eclecticism, and we can say Disneyfication of Baltimore Harbor was also seen for the development of the as a part of the post-Fordist approach here. Impact was the what was the impact here? Capitalism's search for profit has accelerated spatial reorganization to a point where Space itself become destabilized, fragmentary, and ephemeral. Now, the people who were hired for just 7 days, they were getting the salary of 15 days. In short term, they will think that we get a more money for the work for 7 days. That is for the 15 days salary. But if we will see this for a long term period, this is making that particular system as a gig working system, where the complete profit is being taken by this capitalist system, and the workers, they are not getting the complete reward of their work for the contribution to the development of that company there. Now, here we'll see that what is created here, the spectacular urbanism, cities designed for consumption and visual impact. Gentrification and displacement, the marginalized population expelled from the redeveloped neighborhoods. This was actually done in the various developing regions. Social fragmentation, class, ethnic, and spatial segregation intensified. The nostalgia and simulation were also seen. The real history was replaced by the themed simulations. Okay, वहाँ पे simulations create किए गए ताकि वहाँ पे जो करंट चीजें दिख रही है वो चीजें दिखाई जाए, हिस्टोरिकल कंटेक्स्ट वहां से इरेज करने का ट्राई किया गया. Then, next important geographer here we have Edward Soya and the concept of third space here. Now, Edward Soya, we will see that he synthesized the Fabry spatial triad, Foucault's heterophobia, and Marxist analysis to develop a third space concept, a radically inclusive concept of the spatial knowledge and the practice. Okay, so यहाँ पे first space, second space, and third space क्या है? Let's look at it. First space, concrete spatial reality, physical built, physical built environment, mapped and measured, objective spatial part here. Geographic, cartographic analysis along with the GIS. Second space, conceptual imagined spaces. How space is conceived in mind of inhabitants. Mental maps, perceptions, and representations were seen here. Phenomenological and psychological analysis were both taken into consideration. Third space, lived, that is produced space. Synthesis and the transcends, first space and second space, actual lived experiences, constantly renegotiated, open to the changes in this particular aspect. So, critical interpretative, qualitative research, and narrative and ethnography is seen in this third space. So, third space as the radical openness, how it is seen here. I define third space as an other way of understanding and acting to change the speciality of human life. A distinct mode of critical spatial awareness that is appropriate to the new scope and significance being brought about in the rebalanced trialectics of spatial historically sociality. So these were the part which was given by Edward Soya. These were the words of Edward Soya. Features, if we look at, radically inclusive, not restricted to binary choices, that is yes or no, uh, this or that. So there are more choices are provided here. It embraces multiple perspective scales and temporalities. Cumulative and open-ended. Thirding produces what's called cumulative trialectics that continuously expand to include additional otherness here. Non-dualistic escapes trapped oppositions that it's real, imagined, material, ideal, objective, subjective. So there is no such thing like real or imagined, material or ideal, or objective or subjectivity here. So this is going beyond this particular aspect. Transgressive crosses boundaries and challenges established categories here. The influence of the third space was seen. Henry Fabre's spatial production, Homi Bhabha's concept of hybridity, that is post-colonial in-betweenness. Bell Hook's concept of margin to center, that is perspective of marginalized communities. Edward Said's critique of Orientalism, how Western power construct otherness in the third world or the Asian region. Orientalism, basically, it is the Asian countries. Then Gayatri Spivak, interrogation of the representation. Can subaltern speak? That is an important part here. So application was seen in the Los Angeles and the postmodern urbanism. in the complete world, not only USA but also in the complete world. Then Soya uses Los Angeles' exemplary postmodern space, fragmented geography, edge cities sprawl, multiple centers, nuclear downtown, heterotrophic landscapes, theme parks, gated communities, ethnic enclaves, and corporate towers. Post-Fordist economy, entertainment, services, flexible labor, postmodern culture, pastiche, simulation, and spectacle were also seen here. So this was an important part which was associated with the postmodernist. Now, number five, we have the feminist and the post-colonial postmodernism. Now, the feminist critique, what we see. Postmodernist feminist challenge, that is, the masculine bias is seen in the spatial sciences, which claims to objectivity mask male perspective. For example, who will cook the food for today? So that is by default women. Who will do the clothes for today? Who will wash the dish for today? So that is by default women here. So there were certain gendered spaces also. How domestic spaces, streets, workplaces are organized by gender power relations. If you will look at the market, the more male will be working there. If you look at the general spaces, more things will be from the male perspective. Body and embodied experiences, how gender, sexuality, and corporeality shape spatial experiences is also seen. The care work and the reproductive labor, the invisible in spatial science but crucial to the production of space, is not considered here as a part of the feminist. Therefore, feminists critique all these things which is taken as a part of the important part which is seen from the perspective of the development of the women in society. Now, under the post-colonial geography, the post-colonial approach is critique. Eurocentric knowledge. Spatial science reflect the Western assumptions, not universal truth. Okay, so it is not an universal truth that what is happening in Japan or in India, but it is just a Western thought or assumption. Colonial spaces, how colonial powers use spatial practices, mapping, surveillances, dispossession to dominate. Orientalism, Western stereotyping of East through spatial and cultural representation is also seen here. Subaltern geography, how we see that the spaces and voices of colonized, indigenous, and marginalized people is basically altered and it is not heard by most of the organizations and institutions. So this was seen as a part of the we can say the postmodern geography, which included the part of the feminism. Now, next is the functionalist geography. When we will look at the functionalist geography, it contains some of the part of the postmodern geography also. But what is the functionalist geography? Let's look at it. Functionalist geography, also known as structural functionalism, in human geography, analyzes regions, settlements, and spatial systems as interconnected wholes where each part performs a specific function contributing to overall system stability and maintenance. So the core part here will be saying that that is the structural functionalism, which is having an interconnected whole where the performance is seen with respect to overall system is taken into consideration. Now, core assumptions, system perspective, interdependence, okay. Geography focuses on analyzing systems and their components here. Parts of system are functionally related and mutually dependent. Equilibrium and adaptation. Systems tend towards the equilibrium. Changes represent adaptive responses here. Holistic analysis is done in this functionalist approach. Understanding regions require analyzing how diverse elements, economic, social, political, environmental, function together. Orderliness. Despite complexity, spatial systems exhibit underlying order and structure. If we look at the intellectual origin of this functionalism, it is borrowed from structural functionalism in society, sociology, that is by Durkheim and Parsons, which is applied to spatial and regional problems in geography. When we look at the subcomponents of functionalist geography, it is the system theory and holistic analysis. And number two, it is the central place theory, which revisited the functionalist perspective. So if we look at both this part here, the general system approach will be understanding in the systems analysis in future. I will not be going this through now because this will create a kind of a confusion for you to understanding this complete general system theory in a very short span of time, because it will take a complete 3-hour lecture to understand this general system approach. Then the next is central place theory. This is a basic part of the we can say the central place theory. It is a basic part of the settlement and the urbanization. So this we will be also looking at in detail. Functional regions, this will be also seen in detail as a part of the models, theories, and laws here. Okay, then urban ecology and human ecology, it will be also seen in detail. Spatial diffusion as functional process, it will also seen in detail. Regional development and growth pole theory. Okay, so most of the things what we will see here, that is a part of the models, theories, and laws in human geography, which will be seen from a different perspective. But what we need to understand here, that what is difference between the modernist geography, postmodernist geography, and the functional geography. Can you understand that what these three things are, how these three things are integrated and they are different from each other, how radical Marxism and functionalism they come into picture? Okay, so this is my main motive here. Have you understood this part, and are you clear with this approach what I am trying to teach you? You can comment here in the live chat box. Very good. Okay, why we are studying postmodern and the functionalist geography? Because geography did not end with the postmodern, or geography did not end with the environmentalism or the welfareism. But after that, what happened within the subject of geography, it is not taught anywhere, nor it is present in the books. Therefore, when we are writing conclusion, or we are heading towards that what is the next step in geography, 99% of the geography optional aspirant students, they don't know what to write in the functionalist geography, or what they need to exactly write in the postmodernist geography. So this lecture, this particular second half of the lecture, it was dedicated to that part, so that you do not have confusion in writing any answer or approach from the perspective of the postmodernism and the functionalism. Okay, you can take question for today. The question is, discuss the development of radicalism in human geography. You will write this for 10 marks. Do write your answer, and you can share, you can mail me, or you can write your responses. You can directly put your PDF in the Telegram group. I have already specified how you can go to my Telegram group. You come to the website. Okay, this is the website. From here, you will see that there are links provided here in the form of the buttons. So if you will put a link at the Telegram, you will be directly brought to this group, that is the Civil Prep. Okay, CivilPrep, this is my group. You can directly put your responses and answer in this group. Okay, then we will discuss it over the live evaluation and mentorship. So guys, I will be stopping here for today. Any queries, any doubts, you can ask in the group, or if you can also come to the website. Here you have got any question, you can type your question here. The question will be directly forwarded to me, and I will be answering it to you. either to one of my team member or to any other person, so we can talk over it. Okay. And yes, do also go through this geography optional foundation premium course. This premium course, it gives you a lot of insight about the daily answer writing, and it also gives you an insight about the test series. There are total 20 test series, 22 test series, 20 sectional tests, and two full length tests are provided here. So you can go through them. You can actually not only gather knowledge, you can also go for uh, means ready before the prelims exam, and you can actually score very well in your UPSC examination. So this is also quite provided to you. This is kept at very low price as compared to the other institutes. Okay, and it will be actually covered by me. So this is one of the important parts, that evaluation is the most important part here, that is important for students for scoring marks. So here majority of the students like, I want the students to excel in geography and not struggle with geography. So this is my approach. So guys, thank you very much. See you in the next session and all the best. See you on Monday. Okay.